Hey, how's it going, guys? Zuko here, and today I'm bringing you a really quick news update, but unfortunately, it may not be good news, and if you can read the title down below, then you probably have an idea of what this is about. But we're talking about AmiAmi today, one of the biggest and most popular places to shop for anime figures, goods, and other merchandise. And just to cut to the chase, essentially what they're doing is they're putting rules in motion that's not going to allow us to combine as many figures as we originally could. And I'm just going to run through a couple of examples here, show you exactly what I'm talking about. In a couple minutes, I'll talk about why this may be happening, and ultimately what this means for you, what it means for me, and what it might mean for AmiAmi. So the first time I noticed this actually was just a couple days back when they put up the Anya and Yor figure from Good Small Company. And let me just say, this is a really cute figure. I was not expecting to like this as much as I do. Probably gonna order it. But as you can see down here, it says, in clear text, this item must be delivered alone and it cannot be combined with other items. And I felt like that was pretty odd because when you look at this figure, nothing about it screams extravagant. Like, both characters are pretty condensed on this piece of furniture. Neither are very tall because they're sitting down. And it just feels like there shouldn't be a restriction when talking about this figure. But for whatever reason, there is. And when I first saw this, I kind of just assumed that Good Small Company told them to do it for whatever reason, and I didn't really think much of it. I thought it was like a one and done thing, whatever the case. But it turns out, obviously, it wasn't. So moving on, we have the Asuka Langley figure that also just went up for pre-order this week. And it is again from Good Small Company, and just like the Spy Family figure, this item cannot be combined with anything else. But unlike the Spy Family figure, it also does state that they are assuming it might be very costly to ship out due to the size or weight. I don't really buy that. When I look at this figure, nothing about it screams very large packaging. She's sitting on that rubble, slightly elevated, but like, it's not a wide figure. It doesn't seem extremely tall either, so I'm not exactly sure what's going on here. And at this point, I was kind of just assuming, alright, maybe this is a Good Small Company thing. Maybe they really are just pushing for single shipment items for whatever reason, and they're telling AmiAmi to do this. So I wanted to do some research and look into some other items. And it turns out, it's not just Good Small Company. Very recently, Alter put out the Atsuko and Takao Race Queen figures from Azur Lane, and I was very surprised when I saw that you could not combine them with anything else. But this release specifically has something kind of funny about it, if you ask me. Now, if you missed it, there's actually multiple versions of this figure. You can buy them together, where they're like squishing up against each other, or you can buy the girls separately. Now, there's no optional parts for any of these figures. Maybe the umbrellas can like be taken out of her hand or something, but for the most part, you have to set them up the way you buy them, right? But for whatever reason, you can combine the girls when they're separated from each other with anything else you want. And you would think that two separate boxes would be a little bit bigger than the one box of the two girls together. It just doesn't really make sense to me, but that is the reality of the situation. And it doesn't stop at Alter. Here we have SkyTube's Chinese-style underwear Akama-chan, a girl sitting down, not really taking up a lot of space, a 1/6 scale, but really not that big of a figure, and you can't combine it with anything. This elf girl from Vibrastar is another one that you just can't combine with anything else. And these last two figures were like cast-offable, so maybe that's something that adds to it, but I don't really know. But the one figure that really caught me off guard, the one that made me want to make this video and made me like audibly bruh when I saw it, was the Higurashi Rika high school student figure. This just does not make any sense from a logistics standpoint. She is not very big, she's not a tall character, it's about 8 inches or so, and she is in fact a high school student, which is never a big figure when it comes to the packaging. She does have some optional parts. She gets some extra arms and a cute face. This is a very adorable setup, but it doesn't really add up if the size was the issue. And Satoko does not have this restriction. She went up a couple months back, and you can combine her with anything you want, you know what I'm saying? So it's just a really weird situation. So why is this happening? Well, AmiAmi has not said anything about it directly, but thanks to some users on MFC, we did get a little bit of information from the customer service. There was an article made today from Shiosetsu, and they specifically plug MSP 1701, stating that they contacted them, and essentially the response they got was that they're kind of trying to avoid damages during transit. They don't want to combine too many figures together because I guess they're getting too many situations where customers are receiving damaged figures. And I feel like that's a really weird explanation. Because when you think about AmiAmi's packaging, it's about as good as it gets. They make damn sure that your package is going to arrive to you safely. Whether it's to your house, your apartment, under the bridge, it doesn't matter. They are stuffing those boxes with so much paper to an excessive degree. Everything about their service when it comes to the packaging is top notch. So it's pretty surprising to see them say that they're worried about the figures getting damaged during transit. Now, it does seem like the customer service representatives don't know exactly what's going on with this situation. They're not the ones making the rules of the websites, so something higher up at AmiAmi is making them, make these decisions. And I feel like this is ultimately going to hurt the company. While everybody collects differently in terms of how much they buy, how big the scales are they like to collect, ultimately having the option to combine figures is really important. As figures are getting more expensive, as shipping is getting more expensive, you really want to save as much money as you can in these situations. And I'm the kind of consumer who doesn't necessarily buy tons and tons of figures every month, but I absolutely like to ship scale figures and Nendoroids, or scales and Figma, stuff like that. And not being able to pre-order those figures and combine them together is a real hassle, and it makes me not want to order the smaller things from AmiAmi anymore, because I don't like shipping out one singular Nendoroid, one singular prize figure, because it really does start to add up. And I think a lot of people out there can share that sentiment with me. You will always be able to combine many Nendoroids together, many Figma or Figuarts together, but when it comes to the bigger stuff, you're not really going to be able to add anything else to your order, because now we're restricted on what we're allowed to buy. And I do want to point out that not every figure is like this. If I could find an example, I think I opened one up. The Telovru Darkness Momo Changing Clothes mode from QSQ is a figure that you can buy and combine with anything you want. I really want to know who decided this was a good idea. Because if you can't combine your stuff, and ultimately that is the best way to save money on this hobby, then it's going to absolutely drive customers to look at other services, other stores. And you really should be doing that anyway. Only going to one store isn't the best way to go about this hobby in general, in my opinion. But, AmiAmi is my favorite website. I often shop there all the time. I buy most of my figures there. I've been buying figures here since 2011, and it's hard to break away from that comfort zone of a store that you're really familiar with and you're just happy with their services. But I'm not trying to spend way more money than I have to, especially as costs go up. Honestly, when I think about it, throughout all the years of collecting, I've only received a couple of damaged boxes and one damaged figure where I ordered it with DHL, so I was able to get a replacement figure. And that shouldn't be coming out of AmiAmi's pocket, considering there is insurance on the DHL order. So I don't really know why this is such a big deal for AmiAmi. These shipping services have insurance because they're so expensive. That's part of what we're paying for, especially with DHL, because those prices are getting absolutely crazy. And if you ask me, unless it's one singular thing that's not that big, then DHL might as well be useless to me at this point, because they are just way too pricey. But yeah, this is a weird situation, and I'm not really thrilled about it. I really hope they revert this change, or at least talk about it, let us know exactly why this is happening. If I could make a suggestion, I feel like they really should allow certain things to be combined with other figures. If they don't want me to combine the Asuka figure with the Spy Family figure, for example, fine, I can deal with that. But at the very least, I feel like really small figures should still be allowed to be put into the box, considering a lot of these figures really aren't that big to begin with. The stuff that is huge, I totally understand the restriction, and it makes a lot of sense. But a lot of the figures we're looking at right now is really just some odd decision being made from the higher-ups that I don't feel is very customer-friendly. The only other suggestion I have, which really isn't the best solution, but at the very least it's something if they're gonna mandate this, is allow us to just check off a box where it's I take full responsibility of this order if something were to happen to it. It's not a great solution, but I do trust AmiAmi's packaging way more than most companies, so unless something really bad happened, I probably wouldn't mind doing that, but ultimately I do hope this kind of just goes away and maybe this is all just some big mistake or something. In the event that this is a big mistake, I'll probably just take this video down because I don't want to confuse people about it, but I do feel like this was an important video to point out to people, as this is probably the most relevant website to buy anime figures from, and I'm always highlighting it in my pre-order roundups whenever I'm talking about figures you can buy. But that's going to do it. Not the most happy news of all, but I do feel like it is important. Thanks for watching this video. I'll see you all pretty shortly. I got to put out that pre-order roundup pretty soon, maybe in a couple days. But until then, I guess I'll just see you later. Bye.